I am Imogen Aukland, and I'm a Brooklyn-based intermedia artist. Thank you so much for having me. In terms of my background, I think that, at least part of my current practice is informed by my family and the way I grew up. My mom studied art and photography, and my dad worked at IBM. And, as I've continued to make work, I feel like I see more and more the ways that those influences kind of start to appear in what I make. My work definitely isn't about my family outright, but they do exist somewhere in my art. A lot of the annotations on my pieces are references to my siblings.
Some of my biggest artistic influences are Via Salmons, Dion Lee, Howardina Pindell, Eileen Quinlan, and Deborah Phillips. I think about their work a lot, and I'm always interested to see if and how it starts to emerge in my own work. A lot of the work that I resonate with most is photo-based, and I think that that's pretty evident in my practice. Another really important part of my life and big influence has been mentorship. I've had really incredible mentors who I always carry with me in my work as an artist. I worked as a studio assistant for the artist Langdon Graves, who's a big influence of mine, and being able to be part of her studio practice was really huge for me. I also take a lot of inspiration from my peers. I feel very energized and excited by the work I've been seeing from the communities that I'm part of. Something that I've been really interested in recently and have been kind of working through in my practice is the idea of exploring a space in between mediums. My work combines different techniques, including computer technology, and in a lot of ways exists outside of a formal medium. I use elements of collage, photography, printmaking, and sculpture in my work, but they don't just fall into one of these categories. I use paint, but I'm not a painter. I use sculptural technique, but I'm not a sculptor. And my practice recently has been about finding ways to synthesize these different forms, and also to think about how new definitions of mediums may begin to develop as our relationship to material and to technology changes. In a lot of ways, I'm using digital methods to create analog pieces. And I'm interested, what does that mean then about my work and about how far definitions of mediums are able to take us and maybe what comes next? Something pretty challenging about being an artist is the lack of stability. It's not often a full-time job for people, and that can come with a lot of uncertainty. Opportunities can be really competitive and hard to come by, and as an artist, you have to be used to a lot of rejection. I think I would tell my younger self to find some kind of artistic community to connect to. When I was a kid, I used to think of making art as a pretty solitary activity, and I don't feel that way anymore at all. A mentor of mine always says to find the others, so I think I would tell her that, to go find the others. Yeah, I think for me, this question is pretty important to my practice and kind of goes back to an answer that I'd given earlier. I think that one of my aims is to use materials in a way that is unconventional or to make work that may not adhere to a traditional medium. My practice is really a back and forth between analog and digital processes. Paper collage is scanned and digitally manipulated, then printed out and mounted. It really goes from handmade to digital, then back to handmade. I kind of refer to it as a game of telephone, and I really want to work in this middle space. I definitely need some kind of sound when I'm working. I cannot work in silence. I do a lot of listening to music, to podcasts, to audiobooks. My studio mate, Amanda Baker, recommended Patty Johnson's podcast, Art Problems, to me, which I've really been enjoying. One of my favorite things to hear when somebody looks at my work is that they can't tell how I made it. There's something about hearing that makes me feel somehow like I've done my job. A professor of mine once defined making art as transforming material. And I found that when a material has been transformed, it sometimes begins to hide. And I don't want it to be easy for my audience to pick out exactly how I've done something. And I really like the pieces to have a certain mystery.
A lot of my work has to do with the way that we perceive visual information. So I'm definitely interested in people having their own individual readings of the pieces. But with that being said, the imagery I work with can appear pretty ambiguous, and oftentimes my audience may question what exactly it is that they're looking at, what they see. And I'm interested in this idea of questioning what we see. I think especially how it can be applied to different areas of our lives. I think a lot about the way that AI technology has, allowed for the creation of different kinds of simulated spaces. And I wonder, what does it mean to question what we see in a world that is more and more capable of presenting us with these kinds of false realities? Right now, so I'm definitely thinking about different kinds of, false realities and visual literacy.
Thank you so much for your time and for these questions. I really appreciate it. My work can also be found on my website or on my Instagram page.